Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to The Office Field Guide. I'm Chris, and I'm reviewing every episode of The Office ever. Today, I'm looking at the 12th episode in Season 3 entitled Back from Vacation. That is the 12th episode if you consider the Benihana episode as 2, which the DVDs do, and Netflix does not. So depending on how you watch these, it's either 11th or the 12th. We're having fun, right? Okay, so Back from Vacation aired on January 4th, 2007. It was written by Justin Spitzer, who just joined the writing team earlier in Season 3, and is also this nurse from the Fun Run episode. This one was directed by Julian Farino, but I'll get to him in just a minute. Back from Vacay was viewed by 8.8 million people and currently has an 8.5 out of 10 rating on IMDb. The setup for this one is that no one was supposed to know that Michael and Jan went to Jamaica together, but then he accidentally sends a compromising photo of the two of them to the warehouse crew, at which point it goes viral. So your trivia for today is, this is the first time that Michael leaves the country. What is the second time Michael leaves the United States? All right, with that, let's get settled in.
No one asked you anything ever?
Okay, where to start on this episode? There's a lot of action in this one.
Sex.
Nope, not that kind. There's a lot of running from place to place, which is well done because in reality, Michael and Dwight would have had to run a lot longer, as the office interiors are on a soundstage and the warehouse is in a different building. Which I was today years old when I learned that the soundstage of the interior shots was actually right next door to where the exterior and the warehouse scenes are shot. I guess I'd assumed that the soundstage was somewhere in the Universal Studios backlot. The family and I actually took a trip to LA last year, and we got as close as we could to the building, which was still pretty far away. Like, we were way back here. I almost followed an ambulance into the gated off area, but I don't know. I didn't really feel like getting arrested. I mean, I love you guys, but I guess I really didn't want my kids to end up in a police station in Van Nuys, California on our vacation. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. Anyway, that's right, there was a lot of back and forth running. And you gotta give these guys props. You know that they had to do this several times. So much so that Rainn Wilson is actually still sweating pretty badly during this sequence. And while we're on it, this is one of those scenes that define The Office for me. There's so much heart to this scene. Pam's crying, and Dwight, the forever power-hungry antagonist, puts everything aside and sits and comforts a coworker in need.
So you're PMSing pretty bad, huh?
But before we get too deep with that, I'll give you this prompt for the comments. What do you think about Jim's stance in this episode? And I'll refresh you. He has an issue with Karen moving into an apartment 2 blocks away from where his house is. And the reason he gives is,
he said it would be like we were living together in different houses.
I mean, I guess I see his point, but also Scranton isn't that big. I mean, it bumps up to a couple other towns, but they're all pretty small. So I think there's this kind of assumption that if someone moves to Scranton, you're pretty much in close proximity to them one way or the other. I mean, you're going to end up at the same mall, the same grocery stores, and the same everything. So let me hear in the comments, what do you think about their argument? And this seems like a great point for an episode we were robbed of. So the episode we were robbed of, based on the Back from Vacation episode, is simply entitled Vacation. I mean, I really don't want to see everything that happened in Jamaica, but it would be great to see how they relate to each other when they're on vacation. We do get a little brief slideshow that Michael forces the whole staff to watch.
Now, that's a German woman named Gru.
And while we were robbed at a closer look at their vacation, in Season 4, we do get this great nugget.
This is Plaintiff's Exhibit 107. I quote from an entry dated January 4 of this past year.
And I thought the best thing I could do is just quote directly in my own voice. Just got back from Jamaica. Tan almost everywhere. Jan almost everywhere. Hee hee. Oh, diary, what a week. I had sex with my boss. I don't know if it's going anywhere. Jan was very specific that it is not going anywhere, that it was a one-time mistake. But we had sex 6 times, so you tell me. I'm definitely feeling eerie. Irie. More tomorrow, XOXO Michael. Okay, and I'll revisit the deposition episode at some point, but I have to call out that it's amazing that Michael even does bits for his diary, with a setup and a payoff. And I know I said I'd bring up Farino. He is the one who directed the deposition episode, so it is an interesting little trivia bit that he worked on both episodes in which this trip got brought up. and other things in this episode. Maybe it's a goof, or maybe there's an in-universe explanation for it, but Jim Carrey is referenced in this episode.
I am not.
Oh, Jim Carrey just walked in. Dwight, get his autograph from Michael.
Jim Carrey did not just walk in.
Which is weird considering that he shows up later in the series. So maybe it's a goof, or maybe Jim Carrey was just doing some research for a part and was doing some interviews on the side. And just a couple more little things. Though it's depressing, Michael's hot, hot, hot out in the cold doesn't slip by me.
Feeling hot, hot, hot.
And Andy again displays his musical talents. But with that, let's dig into the deeper meaning.
Why don't you explain this to me like I'm 5?
The phrase back from vacation is pretty much a synonym to back to reality. I don't know if everyone is like me, but there's something almost mystical about traveling. I love it. I love vacations. In addition to LA last year, the year before that, we went to New York and we made the pilgrimage to Scranton. Anyway, there's something about just being away. It's refreshing, it's freeing. The pressures of everyday life are gone. The pressures of your reputation are gone. So for some, travel is one of the most freeing things in the world. For others, it can kind of feel like a trap. Stripped of all pretense, you're really just left with you. And sometimes that can be a scary thing. And this will pay off in a second, just stick with me. Regardless of what kind of person you are, the return back to reality can be a really rocky road. Michael returns with such optimism and hope.
Come on.
But it really doesn't take long for his hopes and good vibes to be squished on by reality. And I'll reiterate from the Benihana episode, I believe that Jim jumped into this relationship with Karen to avoid the awkwardness of coming back to Scranton alone. But paralleling Michael's return, he's realizing that his return from Stanford is now getting crushed by reality.
I'm just in this, stupid fight with Karen.
Oh.
But I think it's with Pam that we get to see the depth of this episode, as she is checked hard back into reality.
I think I owe you one.
Sorry?
For talking sense into Halbert. But thanks. Seriously.
Sure.
So I'd suggest that the overall message from this episode is to keep an even head. Whether you're on the mountaintop or in the valley, there's always tomorrow, and that change is inevitable. All the more while we're living in this weird social distancing COVID-19 world. And that I think this episode would suggest that when we try to return back to normalcy, we're gonna also be checked by reality. So let's lean on each other in the same way that they do in this episode.
You complete me.
Oh, God.
Or I don't know, maybe this whole episode is an excuse to show a topless Melora Hardin on primetime television. Okay, I'm not really sure if that's her or not, but Steve Carell's for sure photoshopped here, right? There's something so off about his head. Anyway, to the Dundies.
And then I gotta get him to the Dundies.
First up, the best brother Dundee goes to Dwight Schrute.
You don't need to stay here.
I know.
I had to do it. This scene gives me the feels. It's expertly written and acted, and there's a cool timing of the joke to drama cadence that's just so well done. Pam crying, to Dwight springing to action, to taking his jacket off, to wrapping it around himself, to putting his hand on Pam's back, to the comment about PMS. It's a roller coaster, and it's just so well done. I can remember sitting on my couch when this aired with my eyes tearing up, and I was laughing and just glad to see Dwight humanized in such a touching way. And I'm not crying right now, I promise. Anyway, moving on. The Dundee for the worst psychobabble goes to Jan's therapist.
My psychiatrist thinks that I have some self-destructive tendencies and that for once, I should indulge them. You following me?
Yes.
This is bad advice. If you're aware you're making bad decisions, it's probably not wise to dive headfirst into a clearly bad one. This is the eventual outcome.
When I get frustrated or irritated or angry, I come up here and I just smell all my candles. And it just poof, goes away.
She loves to sue. She loves lawsuits.
I guess that makes me the devil.
You are! She is! She is the devil! I'm in hell!
Great episode, but probably leads to a bad life. But with that, let's get to the trivia and the ratings.
What gives you the right?
Okay, so before I get to the ratings, let me get you the answer to that trivia question. Michael's first trip out of the country was to Jamaica. His second trip out of the country was to the exotic land of Canada in the business trip episode in season 5.
Stop it! Stop it! You want to get robbed in a foreign country? I'll wash my hands of this.
Okay, where's my translator?
Ici, monsieur.
Okay, so for the cold opening, I give this one a 3 out of 5. I love my Jim Dwight prank openings, and this one does not fail me. I also love how oblivious Andy is.
I am now chopping off Phyllis's head with a chainsaw. Ring.
I've known some Andys in my time. Anyway, it definitely drags for a bit, and it's just not that memorable. So 3 out of 5 is where it's at. As for the episode, I give this one a 2 out of 5. I'm just not that big of a fan of this episode. The structure, the pacing, and the feeling it gives is just a bit off. I've never really liked this one, and it also might be because of the feelings that it makes me feel, which I'm aware of, but there's just not enough good in this episode for me to warrant anything higher than a 2 out of 5. But that's just what I think about Back from Vacation. What do you think about Back from Vacation? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Again, this is part of why I do this channel, is for the conversation, so leave your thoughts in the comments. Did you know that trivia question was a little too easy? Let me know if you want me to crank up the intensity on these. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week when we cover the Traveling Salesman episode.
In the event of a crash, driver always protects his side first.
All right, with that, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.